Hello guys, welcome to my next podcast. This is a mix of Islamic and non-Islamic podcast because we're going to be talking about how the ancient false gods were actually malevolent jinn. Now this could tie into both Islamic and non-Islamic podcast. For the Islamic part, obviously because it mentions jinns, and I'm going to be mentioning the Quran. However, even for non-Muslims, you can still believe that jinns exist. Like I've known a few Christians who believe in the creation of jinns and the ancient false gods were jinns, and it could be proven with the Quran and without the Quran that jinns do exist. But we're not going to be getting into that. And this is mainly taken from my Medium article, because a few months ago I wrote a whole article on this on Medium that goes into more detail. This is just a summary of it. But if you want to know more, you can check that out, which I'll leave a link in the description. And this podcast is going to assume you know what jinns are, their powers, and their abilities. So if you don't know, you can go look it up. So to start it all off, look at the connection I made. Jinns, like human beings, they have their own hierarchies. Remember, we have presidents, prime ministers, senators, different rankings in a work company, manager, boss, etc. Well, jinns like us, they have their own hierarchy. And the ancient false gods, they too have their own hierarchy, like the false god of this, the false god of that, this false god was ahead of this false god was ahead of that, and I'm saying false god because I'm not trying to commit shirk here. This false god was this one's brother, this false god was this one's father, etc. And that's similar to jinn. And one of the biggest false gods is Baal. Now I want to say there were other false gods besides Baal, but a poor Baal, he is the one that's just talked about. He's like just the scapegoat everyone uses. Baal, Baal, Baal this, Baal that. And Baal is bad, he's evil, but there's more than just Baal that aren't known. So sorry for my boy Baal, he doesn't deserve all the hate he gets. Well, actually he does deserve the hate, but it should be shared. Like there are others that deserve the hate. But Quran Surah 37:125 explicitly condemns this worship, asking, do you call upon Baal and leave the best to creators? Now I will say I'm doing this in English because my Arabic isn't that well, and when I look the Quran in English, there's like 18 million translations for it. However, the message is clear. It's saying, do you call upon Baal and leave the best to creators? And Baal worship, such as child sacrifices, rituals, humiliations, is similar to what malevolent jinn asks, because malevolent jinn, they ask for you to do disgusting, degrading, unholy acts, and that's what is involved in Baal worship. So it takes two for one. And now what does this say? Because I'm winging this, I didn't even review what I wrote, guys. Okay, so another one is this female deity in ancient Arabia associated with fertility and prosperity. In jinns, they have powers, and for human beings that don't know any better at the time, they see a jinn do this or that cool thing. They think, oh wow, that must be a god. Even though we know it's not true, so we have to be lenient on some of the humans of the olden days because they didn't have the Quran, they didn't have prophets, what we do, and it's very easy to be deceived. And this jinn a lot was worshipped alongside Al-Uzza and Manat, and it's like they have these families and people pray to her and perform rituals, which is what malevolent jinn asks, and they were believed to be inhabited by spirits. What are spirits? Jinn. And jinns can form family and clan. It's possible that these sister false goddesses represented powerful female jinn who ruled over human devotion. Once again, this is from my Medium article. So once again, there are these three false sister goddesses that are ruling. They're inhabited by spirits. People felt the presence. A jinn family could be interpreted too. And another one was Bes. Bes was a false god in Egypt. And the reason why I'm covering multiple false gods is to show you that it's not just a one-time thing. And because poor Baal is constantly getting the heat, even though he's not the only one. But Bes was in Egypt, and he was said to inhabit and guard households like jinns. And that's like so similar, like he's guarding households, because remember how in Islamic traditions we talk about how jinns live and do stuff in your households. Well, that's what Bes was doing. And keep in mind, before Islam came, the world between ours and the jinn was more open. Like people talked to jinn, people communicated to jinn, jinns went up to the heavens. Like we're living in a completely different time. Like after Islam came, like the world between this and the jinn was really sealed and cut tight. Like back in those days, you could see a jinn like, oh, there's my jinn buddy, hey jinny. Nowadays, you gotta do some dark magic rituals, and even then you can't see jinn. Like, look at all the ancient stories. They would see like this scary monster. Like ancient Egypt would report seeing scary monsters at night. It was just jinn because, but now the barrier is closed for better or for worse. And now let me close this. And unlike humans, jinns, they can live for thousands of years, allowing them to be worshipped across multiple civilizations. Like look at Rome, Greek, they mention Baal. Like all these civilizations, they mention very similar false gods, and had a list of a bunch of false gods that were worshipped across civilizations spanning hundreds and thousands of years. Unfortunately, I do not have that list, but I will look for it and show it to you guys. And jinns, they can live for hundreds or like thousands of years. Like they're on another level, so it's very possible that even a jinn from ancient Egypt could still be alive today. A jinn from the prophet's time could still be alive today. Like some of the jinns, they recognize Muhammad Sallallahu light that they did with other prophets because they can live for that long. Like how we humans, we live for decades. Like okay, he spent some time in America, then he lived in Romania for 5 years, then the human went on and worked in China for 10 years. Well, jinns do that just on a much bigger level. And also jinns, they can shapeshift like us, which explains why these false gods were depicted in various forms. Like look, this culture depicts this false god as that, this other false culture depicts them as differently. Like look at Baal, for example, he appears in different forms, and that's because jinns like us, jinns unlike us, they can shapeshift. And jinns usually prefer to take the form of bull or goats, and look at a lot of this stuff. Baphomet, Moloch, all those evil demons are goats and bulls, and they often have two horns. And jinns, they have two horns. So I will say horns necessarily doesn't mean a jinn is evil, because like all jinns sort of have two horns is what I heard, but I'm not 100% sure. But essentially if it's these evil jinns and they all have two horns, they're all similar to bulls or goats, it's no wonder people link them with demons and these ancient false gods. So poor actual goats and bulls. Like I once wanted to have like a picture of a bull and a goat and was told, no, that's so demonic, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh my god, it's not like demonic. Like these evil jinns are doing everything for us. And this part I already covered. Now let me take a sip of water. It cannot be a podcast without an awkward pause and water being drunk. And next up, Allah was described as radiating distant feminine energy. Now, once these jinns are there, especially back then when the barrier wasn't as strong, you could sort of feel and sense their energy. Like, remember how sometimes you feel there's a presence in the room, someone watching you? Well, Allah was radiating a feminine energy, which suggests she was more than a mere stone and stuff. Now, she was not a god, obviously, but she was not stone. And rituals invoking her mimic spiritual practices used to summon jinn. Look at this. Why is the rituals that are used to summon jinns are the ones similar to invoking the ancient false gods? Like that's very questionable to me, honestly. And second off, if you're a god, why do we need to have a ritual? Shouldn't you be all seeing, all hearing, like Allah, for example? Like right now I could say, Ya Allah, grant me $1 million, and Allah will hear it, and inshallah He will, but a jinn will be like, oh, somebody called upon me. And now once again to Bess. Bess was described as being joyful, humorous, other times mischievous or fierce. Now I want to say something. Jinns, they have personality traits like humans. Like some of us are super angry all the time, some of us crack jokes, some of us are serious, some of us are happy. Well, jinn too, they too have personalities. And Bess could not have been a single jinn, he could have been multiple jinn. That's another thing, how one ancient false god is just multiple evil jinn. Best is most likely the clear example, due to Best having such different emotions. Or granted, he could be one jinn just having a good day this day, a bad day that day, who knows. But Best is most likely one that's just multiple jinn instead of one. And now we have Quran verses. Quran 6:100, but they have attributed to Allah partners, the jinn, while He has created them, and have fabricated for Him sons and daughters. Exalted is He, and high above what they describe. Right there, and they have attributed partners to Him, the jinn. So Allah is God, as we know. And look what they're saying, they're attributing partners to God, the jinn. Astaghfirullah. They will say, exalted are you. You, O Allah, are our benefactor, not them. Rather, they used to worship the jinn. Most of them were believers in them. Literally right there, used to worship the jinn. It's literally right there. And they have claimed between him and the jinn a lineage, but the jinn have already known that they, who make such claims, will be brought to punishment. So this is talking about how they've making to Allah and jinn like a lineage, indicating that there are multiple gods with Allah, like the jinns and stuff, and A'udhu Billah. And second off, in saying those who, and they have already known that they who make such claims will be brought to them punishment. I'm not a scholar, I'm not an interpreter, but what I'm thinking of the thing is, those jinns already know what they're doing and they're bringing a punishment. Because Iblis, he is not the only evil jinn that's trying to deceive humanity into jinn. No, he's got a whole army of jinn that want to deceive humanity into hell. And what he's saying is these jinns already know and they're trying to deceive humanity into hell. So yeah, that's my podcast. I'll leave a link to all this stuff and make sure to comment and enjoy your day.